Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Chats with Yvonne, a space where we explore the beautiful art of public speaking. These segments are meant to bring us closer to or starting or continuing in our own public speaking journeys, because we really all do have them, by connecting with people to understand their own public speaking journeys. And in today's segment, we're talking to another one of my high school peers where we'll learn about how our high school experiences in public speaking have shaped their career and really life in general. So with that said, I'm so happy to welcome Erick to Chats with Yvonne. Erick, how are you?
Hey, it's going good. It's going very good. Trying to force myself to take a break, but overall, I think it's pretty good.
Well, I
Exactly.
mean, shoot, thank you for taking your break time to talk to us and talk
No, we're good.
on Chats. I'd love for us to start off with just an introduction of who you are, what you do. Tell us what you're all about.
Okay, so I'll just package it very easily. So, I am an apparel designer, creative, I guess what you're gonna call it. So I've been in the industry for 8 years, roughly 6, 8 years. I don't know. Worked with Abercrombie, and then went to Nike, which that was cool, and then now at North Face. So yeah, so I guess you could say presenting has been a very key part of everything I've done up until now, and it's been kind of like, I guess you can say it's been a fundamental part of my success that I've always done, from presenting collections to presenting to athletes to presenting to people, and even in interviews, has been such a key element in regards of what you do every day. But yeah.
Cool, thank you. And we'll get into the public speaking part of your job,
Yeah.
but to give folks context, what does a day in the life of you look like, whether it's at work or whatever it is, so that we understand the context of the kind of public speaking that we're talking about here?
You want pre-pandemic or pandemic?
Whatever you want, whatever you
Okay,
want. Yeah.
so let's do pre-pandemic, because that was like, we want to remember the good times. So for me, I got up every morning, we commuted to work, depending on the day in the calendar. So if I had to present a collection, I have everything ready. I would go through my lines, not lines, but I would go through the bullet points that I want to make in that collection. And then we have the business side and the design and business leadership show up. And so we go through the collections, each designer goes through the thing, we present it, and depending on the gate, so we have three gates. We have like D1, which is presenting first time, second time, it's kind of later in the process, and the third time it's like packaged nicely, everything, all the details are ironed out. And so then we present, and either design leadership, business leadership, or your cross-functional partners are going to actually talk to you and be like, Erick, have you thought about this? We're struggling with this price point, how we could work it. Marketing team sometimes comes in, and stuff like that, depending on the company. So like for Nike, it was like a lot of people involved. And for North Face, has been a little bit like, you just talk to your creative director, you present your actual ideas. If he's on board, he's gonna give you feedback. If it's not, if it's good to go, it's good to go. So yeah, you package it and then you turn it, you get ready. Once everything's done, if you got the feedback, you apply it. If not, you just kind of go home, you chill out a little bit, because that takes a lot of the day. And then if it's not one of those presenting days, you kind of sit down, you kind of oversee your collections, what you have to do, what I had to do. I oversaw like 4 different collections within Nike. And then for North Face, you kind of see your styles that you have to oversee. What are your meetings? Do you have to meet with your cross-functional partners to iron out certain details also? And then you got to go home. But most of the time, it's either like you have your sketching portion, so I can draw, I can concept things from later on, or build decks and presentations to kind of like package the collection that I'm going to present. But overall, just kind of stuff like that. But yeah, pretty much
Cool. Well,
just creative as much as possible.
I want to say you make it sound, you're like, yeah, this is just casual. This is what I do. I just do this, and it sounds like a lot. It sounds awesome, by the way. So thank you for sharing that. And I'd like to know, has there ever been a moment, because you do a lot of presentation of your own work and ideas, has there ever been a moment where you knew that your idea, or you felt that your idea was solid, but maybe you didn't present it in the right way, and so it was, the feedback was, hey, let's go back and correct it, but you're like, no, has that ever happened, and how did you do that? Because feedback is a really big part of the public speaking journey too.
Yeah, so it wasn't okay. I had a coworker, I'm not going to say anything besides that, and they kind of like to throw shade, and that was their thing. They're good, they're phenomenal. Everybody at Nike was amazing. But so we were presenting, and all I can say is World Cup 22. So we were presenting World Cup 22. I got to work on that stuff, design some of the stuff. I can't confirm or deny anything. I'm not under contract. It's just out of respect of everything.
Yeah.
But they called me out and they're like, Erick, you're repeating. So you've even said it in your Instagram. There's phrases and certain things that we repeat because we're comfortable with it. And I used to do that. I used to even invent words. But since I said it with such a confidence, people would believe them. And it was hilarious. But I mean, you sell it, you fake it till you make it. But there was one where we were presenting to the VP of design. His name is John Hoke. And they were just telling me, yo, you're saying these words too much. You have a tendency to do that. And it's like one of those like backhand / feedback things. And they had a tendency to do. I was like, okay, let me figure this out. And it's World Cup 22. So you want all the product, all the sketches that I've done and everything else to be packaged and presented really well. So that was one of those like where if you don't do it right, they're not going to get the idea. They're not going to understand you. And they might just, even though the designs look good, they might be like, I'm not confident enough about this. You have to start over. And I remember they were telling me one time, one of my directors told me like, Erick, it's the product might be good, but the reality is like 75% of that is marketing and probably 20% is the product. So depending on how good you sell it, it's like how people will buy into it. You can be selling water to a fish. If you sell it amazingly, you're just solid. But so then I went back to the drawing board because I knew I had those tendencies, but I never addressed them. I was good at presenting because I understand this idea where like when you're up there, you essentially can manipulate people to believe and think the way you want them, depending on how you intonation and all these other things. So I sat down and I was like, let me hit my bullet points. These are what are the things that I want to say. This is your signature. So use these transitions, but not script it so much that I'm like, oh, just let it flow. And one of the key things that I like to tell people is that if you're passionate about what you're presenting, it's going to come out and it's going to be super seamless. And I've faced in other companies where I'm not passionate about the product. It's harder to sell. You don't feel it. It doesn't feel right. And so this time I went back to the drawing board and I was like writing down, repeating it after in my head again. And I want people to understand that it's not weird to even talk to yourself, say it in your head, look in the mirror. Okay, does that make sense? Even having conversations with yourself, it allows you to better be like, do I understand that? If I don't understand it, how am I going to sell it? Like, this just makes no sense. So, and ended up going an extremely good presentation. Everybody loved the product. And even the VP was like, can you say that again? Let me write that down, please. And I was like, it was good. It felt good. And the individual came up again and they were like, I liked it. You did very good. You did better. And they're not going to give you more than that, but that was just a milestone for me. And I keep repeating that. And even I think depending on where I go, you have to shift your content or the way you present. I mean, sometimes I was presenting to creators, so you can paint a picture and they can imagine it. But the business side of that, those numbers, those guys don't understand that. So it's one of those things where depending on who the audience was, I had to mold my presentation. And depending on the company. So Abercrombie is all about heritage. It's all about those little details. It's all about, especially when you're working on an outerwear product, it's all about that, like that little fine eye to detail. So you have to call that out, tell a story. For Nike, it's about performance. It's about the numbers. It's about trying to make the athlete feel that 1% better, like pushing the athlete, pushing the consumer. And for North Face, it's about the experience. They're about camping. There's all about like that kind of story of like, they have an amazing heritage. So how do you pull that into this? So that experience alone has made me kind of like, okay, try to approach everything with a very kind of like, not plan, but at least like a well drawn out plan that I can like, okay, this is what I'm going to hit. And even if it's not good product, not good product, but when it's not, I'm not passionate about it, you have those outlined that it's like, oh, okay, I hit those points and it's go. It's not my best presentation, but you got your point across, your information is there and you're happy.
There's so many things that you just mentioned that I'm geeking out about, because a lot of people always ask me, how do I get better at public speaking? It's just, I just am not good at it, and it's not this one thing. It really is a culmination of things, right? And
Exactly.
the thing that I will say is, for people, oftentimes they're like, you know what, I'm just too shy. It's just not my thing. How do I get comfortable? Right. And you mentioned, if you're not passionate about it, then it's not going to work, right? It's a combination of passion plus preparation plus knowing who your audience is, right? As cheesy, as basic as it may sound, when put into practice, it's actually quite difficult to do all those things all at once.
Yeah.
So being able to craft that and create that story there is an incredible skill, right? And
Yeah.
another thing that you just described too is understanding what are these almost buzzwords or key phrases that I want to use to make sure that my product, my design is freaking awesome. So I need to sell it, right?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that you said that. And it sounds like a lot of your public speaking journey and skills were developed on the job, and kind of understanding how things work within the different roles that you've had. And so that brings me to sort of my next question, which is, how do you, within the spaces that you are a part of, have you ever felt like, oh, I need to either tone down a little bit, or how have you maintained who you are when you are presenting a project, but at the same time?
First,
Yeah, go ahead.
first, you touched on something that I was thinking about earlier. I was like, if she brings this up, I want people to stop stigmatizing this idea where like, wow, he's an amazing presenter. He was born with that. No one, this skill is not, you're never born with this.
Nope.
Probably some people are naturals in front of like audience, but what you see up in the stage or in a recording or in a show or any of these things is the product of countless times of presenting, making mistakes, stopping in the middle of a conversation, like, you know what I mean? Or saying too many times, or just forgetting what you're supposed to say. You see that? But one of the things that you have to, I catch myself because I'm trying to stop that as much as possible.
Oh, me too.
But that is so important. I want to destigmatize that. Like, it's practice. It's consistent practice. It's talking to yourself. It's presenting in front of other people. And even to the most extreme is recording yourself, listening over. Oh, I said this. Okay, I gotta stop this. Pace yourself. Chill out, or have somebody else give you feedback. Yeah. So it's all those things, and I want people to not be. It's intimidating when you see somebody that's had years of doing it, and it just comes naturally to them.
Right.
And so then that
it comes naturally to them, right? When in fact,
that took practice.
Yeah, they probably wrote things down. They did their own meditation. They, they probably get just as nervous, and it's not that they're more natural to it. In fact, it's probably that they've just practiced it a bit more and are a little more ahead in their comfort level than you are, right? So I like to say that too. When I lead a lot of my workshops, is people aren't born great public speakers. You develop that and you work on it. And like anything else, you have to work on it. It doesn't work if you don't, right? And so you have to get good and comfortable with practicing, even if it's just with ourselves, like you said, in the mirror, or recording ourselves, or one of the things that sometimes I'll do is I journal a lot. And so I'll journal and I'll read those things out loud, because it's kind of two things in one, right? You're comfortable with talking about your thoughts and your story, and you're vocalizing it just helps you internalize and reflect on it a little bit more. But then you also get comfortable hearing your voice. How does my voice sound? When did I emphasize this? Why did I decide to emphasize on this word versus this other one? So I totally agree with that.
And now, in regards of like coming up with your signature and your aesthetic, in regards of when you're presenting, it takes time, and no one is reinventing anything. Spoken word has been for thousands of years. But one thing I do like is like watching other people and understanding how they presented that, or the way they move their hands. Those little, if you like that, take it and then just use it yourself, and then figure out that's that's how you realize what you actually like, and then that's how you build upon your aesthetic and the way you present. And it might be, some people have this, I'm so jealous of this one. It's very like conversational presenting, and they're like, and they stop and they make you think about it, and then they turn. I'm like, yo, this is amazing. I wish I tried doing that, and it's worked a few times. Again, it's a learning process. And I was lucky enough that at Nike you're consistently presenting the leadership, and it's like you have at least 4 presentations within a month, or you're in a group and you have to talk like loudly. You have to present yourself. So it's always that was the luck. So then I also got to refine it there. But my my aesthetic when I present, it's very like TED Talk. I want to make it seem like I'm having a conversation with the audience, and especially when it was not COVID and we're at Nike, you have the business, and then I'm like, what I would do, and even it seemed like a little bit like people would just stand there and they're like, yeah, this is my collection. I've designed these 5 styles. This is what we have. These are the and I'm like, you want to tell a story, and I was like a little storyteller, and I was like, okay, this is what we want to do. We want the athlete to feel and really live the idea of that he's better at performing. So you would tell the story, and then I would turn to the other person and look at them, and then make them. It was just, it's all an act. It's all like, and I like to think about it as like, hey, me and you have played football, and I want to clarify, it's football, not soccer. Football.
Yeah.
We've played it, and so you know that game ready. You're just getting rid of that mentality. You're like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is the things I want to hit. I want to make a statement here. So that's the way that I went about it. I was like, okay. But sometimes it was just like, oh, we're gonna go over product. You just want to hit the points. We're good. But more or less, I wanted it to feel like I am so sure of what I'm doing that they can't say no. So you want to tell the story, you want to package it beautifully, and they're like, yeah, that's okay, Eric. We're good. And until you went now, and that was always the goal. The goal was, and then I want people to understand, there's never gonna be a perfect presentation. There's always gonna be that one thing you could have done better. Oh, I could do this better. It's a learning process, and it's always gonna be so different each time. So don't always hold yourself. Keep an expectation of like, okay, I want to achieve this, because you're going in with a plan. So you have everything kind of like in your mind. Okay, I want to achieve this, so I'm going to do this. It gives you a scaffolding to what you want to do. But for me, consistently was at Nike or anywhere I go is, how do I better myself for my previous presentation? How do I sell this in a way that it's undeniably good, and then the person's going to be like, okay, you know what I mean? I think my first presentation with North Face, and I was presenting a women's product. We had insights previously for women's products. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. Let me take these points that we got from the insight team. Let me tell the creative director, hey, so I designed this with this. The reason this is not there is because we got insights because of the team. They pointed out that the consumer doesn't like this. So that's how I went about designing this. And even if you mess up on a few words, as long as you go and then continue, it's okay. You're a human being, whatever. It adds a little bit like, oh, he's human. He's not a robot.
Like everyone can relax now.
Yeah, relax. And then he was like, after that, he was like, yeah, good job. Yeah, okay. Yeah, he had nothing to say. So, but that's what you want to, sometimes you want feedback. But I felt so accomplished because I was like, that's my first presentation. I'm good. This is the points that I made. This is why I designed it. I'm good. But that was with these companies. You have to, when you want, especially like sometimes you get too connected to your designs and you just want to hope that no one changes anything.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, please not. Like, that's why you sell it. And if they do change something, that's fine. That's part of the process of everything. But yeah, that was my signature. My signature was coming in kind of like, and that might be for everybody. You want to come buttoned up. You want to tell a story. You want to take them in the journey. And I think that was one of the things that my boss has always mentioned, is take them on the journey with you, like pull them with you, like romance it. Like, and that's after doing it for like 7 times.
Yeah. And
but
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No. I think it was just like, okay. And I love making a show of it so people would remember me, because that's like when they come, they're like, oh, what is Eric going to say now? But I made a show of it always, and it was fun. I never made it to a point where like I'm disrespecting anybody. That was not the point. But it was always to the fact that they're like, oh, this guy is so sure of what he's saying. We're good. We trust him. That was always the goal.
Yeah. And I really liked what you mentioned about, you pick and choose different styles of presenting? You know, how does this person talk? What is their tone of voice? How do they move? What is their body language saying? Right? Are
Yeah.
they using repetition as their form to emphasize a point? Right? Because no one ever starts just knowing something, right? So it's almost like
Mhm.
remixing your own public speaking style. You take a little bit de aquí, a little bit de acá, and you bring
Un
them
poquito de
together.
todo.
Yeah, and to be who you are, right? And
Yeah.
then the other part that you mentioned is this I public speaking, you know, we've dehumanized it in a way where sometimes we think, shoot, I got to be perfect at this, and that, right? And what you mentioned is actually public speaking is very much in line with the human experience. We're not born
Yeah.
understanding what the point of life is, but every day we're like, shoot, I guess I'm trying to figure it out, right? That's sort of how public speaking is in a way where you don't wake up just being a great public speaker. You pick out bits and pieces. What do you really like about this? What do you like about that? What worked that one time? What didn't work, right? And then the next day you wake up and you do it again and it's a little bit better than it was last time. So I really appreciate that journey you just took us on too. So you're even doing it a little bit here with us.
Well, there was one, and I can give you an example of that. There was a TED talk when I listened to it, and then I think it was like YouTube, and he was like, it was a woman. I was like, the skills of presenting, and I was like, and so I'll even show you how I used it. But it was funny enough. She was talking about the speed in which you say things. If you slow down, people will understand and it will intake that information a lot more. If you speed up, it's because you don't want people to understand that information. They don't need to pay attention to it. So there's one time where we're into, I think, the second design review. I haven't picked out a fabric for my jacket yet. And I'm like, God, Jesus Christ. These guys are a little bit like, they're pointing everything out. And it was Nike FC. So this collection was reintroduced. I had the opportunity to revive it, to like kind of like carry it on. And I was like, okay, I haven't picked this fabric. And so I was like, yeah, here's the silhouette. And right now we haven't picked the fabric, but we're looking for it right now. But silhouette and with the details that we're actually doing. And I did it a little bit more conspicuous, but no one batted an eye. No one caught it, nothing. And they were like, yeah, no, good job, Eric. That's good. That's good. And then they asked for other things. And then again, I tested it out like 2 days after I heard it. And I was like, yo, this works.
Wow, that's awesome. And also,
and I've used it.
Yeah, I'm sure it also helped that they sort of you had a track record with them, you know, like
Yeah.
a one where like they understood your work and the way that you talked and presented. But
But
that's
there's no, but there's again, don't feel like people shouldn't be afraid to go on YouTube to check out people, and just see like the different styles of presenting. It's so amazing to see that and take those. I mean, for fashion design, you don't build an aesthetic or a signature just you're not born with it. There's many designers that it takes them years, and even to this day, they're still refining it. And it takes like, you can be inspired by music, you can be inspired by this, you can like, it's all these little things that help me build my style. And that's exactly, I like to think about it. That's the way you present also. You build this, you change this didn't work out, then do this. It's a learning process.
because it's also an art, right? The spoken
Yeah.
word in and of itself is a
Oof.
form of art. And so I could
Yep.
probably talk about that for days, but it just is an art that we never quite perfect, but we always work towards becoming a little bit more true to who we are. And who we
Yeah.
are changes maybe day to day, but at least we know that we're working towards that. And so I
Exactly.
appreciate everything that you've just said. And it makes me want to sit in on one of your your design pitches. I know that would never be possible because it's, you know, super confidential, but I'm just saying, you know, it'd be awesome to one day, maybe in like 10 years when the product is already like very well sold and whatnot.
Yeah, I can talk into it. Yeah, I can talk to some of it, but no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be that.
No. But I mean, I appreciate all of the little nuggets of information that you've given us, you know, and you seem to have a lot of experience with, I think there's connections between the design work that you do and public speaking. It's not separate, right? One of the things that I know we gathered from high school was that indeed things are not separated from one another, right? Your math, what you're learning in math and what you're learning in biology and what you're learning in English, all at some point there is an intersection there. And so I think what's awesome about public speaking is that it is across industries, it's across different sectors, whatever it is that you do, public speaking is a skill that will further whatever it is that you're working on.
Exactly.
So I appreciate, I appreciate the time that you took to talk to us today. And if there's anything else that you want to leave our audience with, please share, because you have incredible experience and insights.
No, it's like, even to the, and I mentioned it earlier, even to right now, like sometimes I get stuck on my words. I get nervous. It's just part of the process. I think when I started with North Face, I didn't necessarily like, I was like, it took me some time to like you. It's even hard because you have to, especially when you present to the same individuals always, start learning a little bit of what they listen, what they catch. And I was like, okay, this is what they catch. Those become like identifiable elements that you use in your present. It's even today I'm like, I should have done that better. And it was funny because like, and also you're your biggest critic. I'm not gonna lie to you. Even after I presented it and there and someone heard me, we had like a team building exercise. They came up to you like, she's like, you presented like I've never heard somebody present. Like I'm like, I thought I messed that up again. Like you're gonna be your biggest critic, and I think you have to cut yourself some slack. It's a learning process, and I'm not gonna get tired of it. I like it, and it's not an ego thing, but it's like when you do right, you feel it, and then it just feels so good. So I feel like it's telling people to like, don't worry about it. Take a deep breath, go in it, and I think it's just going with the game plan and more or less. I even messaged you the other time. The idea of just writing down the first thing you open with and the last thing you end with is such a genius thing. And I was like, I should have, because I'm like, it's sometimes so weird because you just end abruptly and you're like, yeah.
You're like, and
no,
yeah.
But yeah. No, but that idea is so amazing because you end strong, and it's like, and sometimes those two lines can like really sell something because maybe they're not presenting here, but the way you said the end, they're like, oh, I love it, and some people pay attention, some people don't, but they love it, and then they're gone with that image of you, like you ended on a high note. But no, I even pay attention to your Instagram. I'm like, yo, that's okay. Like I write it down. Like, okay, I got to figure this out. No, but it's been good. It's been good. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, as you mentioned, this is something that I say too. You build your confidence as you do it more and more. Part of building it, public speaking in and of itself, you can hear my dogs out there. Public speaking in and of itself is, when you give a presentation and someone's like, damn, that was an awesome job, or you did incredible, even though and you notice the things that you're like, well, I said this a little too, or I messed up right here, I didn't say this point that I was supposed to make, no one else noticed, and to everybody else you did an amazing job, right? You internally can know, great, this is what I need to do for next time to make it even better. But it is a really good feeling to know that someone connected with what you were saying and that they resonated with the words that came out of your mouth, so thank you for sharing that.
No, that's good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, for having me. And with that ends today's segment. But Erick, thank you so much for being on Chats with Yvonne. I really appreciate it. All right, bye everybody.